All right, hello and welcome back to the Wildlife Moto channel. So, just finished a session in the garage. Let's flip the camera around and show you what I've been up to on the 1981 BMW R100CS since we last caught up. Had a bit of time off over Christmas, so got a couple of weeks worth of updates to take you through, but it's been quite a bit happening, so let's jump in. So sometimes in life you have to take one step backwards in order to take a step forwards, and I did that actually with my engine mount studs here. I whipped them out and I changed the anti-seize that I had originally used on there. I had actually used a copper-based anti-seize on these, with my thinking being these are kind of a high temperature application. They actually hang the exhaust headers as well as obviously running all the way through the crank, so kind of figured copper might be a good thing to use. But rethinking that, due to the fact that we've got a stainless steel stud running through an aluminium crankcase, which is not good from the old galvanic corrosion potential standpoint. So what I've actually done is I whipped them out, cleaned them off, got rid of all that stuff, and actually I went for not that. This is I don't think this is available anymore. This is some of the Optimal, which is a molybdenum based anti-seize. I actually went for this one instead, which is ceramic. I know, new technology, eh? Getting down with the kids. Very, very high temperature, so that should be good, and also no metallic particles in here, so no risk of any galvanic corrosion, acceleration and things like that. So there you go. Right, that's that. So the starter motor cover, the air filter is all installed, and this didn't exactly go according to plan. So I recently purchased a old style starter motor cover, and I got an old style airbox as well. In fact, let's have a look at that. So that's over here. That is looking fantastic. And then up here, bear with me, there you go, just like magic. These are, well, this is one half of it, the other half's up there, freshly back from being vapor blasted, looking absolutely fantastic, all ready to go on the bike. However, as you can see in this little clip here, I had a real struggle trying to get this to seat on my crankcase. Now you can see inside here, if I just flip it around, it's got this little inner lip here, just where my thumb is there. That's where it sits on the crankcase, and these bits here have to kind of slide down over the top. Now I don't know why it is, but it's about a millimetre out or something like that. It just won't seat. Now, this being cast aluminium, maybe somebody can drop me a note in the comments and let me know. I really didn't want to try and bend it because I reckon it would just crack. So if anyone's got any ideas on how I might get around this, please let me know. I mean, short of filing it, I could try filing a little bit off. But yeah, don't know. It definitely should go on, but it definitely doesn't. And I didn't want to damage anything, so I actually kind of resorted back to my old starter motor cover and my old airbox. And in hindsight, the reason I really didn't fight that too much is because what I think is a much better plan is to actually get this bike running in its default setup. So we've got the right airbox on it, all the right tubing and hosing and all that kind of stuff for the way the bike was set up when it was taken apart. So if we do have any issues, at least we'll have one less thing in there that could be potentially causing it. So actually, I don't think it's a bad idea to get this thing started with the factory setup or the stock setup, and then next project would be to figure out how we're going to get that starter motor cover on there without really causing any potential problems with the engine crankcase. I didn't want to force anything, so I kind of fail fast, scratch my head, have a think about it, and we'll take it from there. Obviously, the air filter uses the flat, it's kind of pancake style air filter, so that's all in there. Underneath that, we've got all the hoses that are set up. The rebreather hose kind of runs out from the top of the crank. That's then plugged into the little T inside there, which is terminating its kind of vapors and blow-by into each of the carburettors. To secure these, pretty straightforward. It's just got these two arms that go on either side, and then just connects to the inlet, and everything's kind of screwed down with these stainless steel hoses. And these stainless steel clips are all kind of brand new as well, so everything's looking lovely, everything's Cerakoted. So yeah, so I'm not hating it. We'll run it, we'll see how we get on, and we'll take it from there. The other thing I've done just before installing the carburettors was I have gone ahead and installed the manual choke pulleys. Really, really easy and straightforward to install these. You just kind of bolt onto the little lever there, which would normally have the cable actuator, but now it's just slightly modified for this setup. And then we have a little blanking plate up here, which, yeah, it doesn't perfectly match my Cerakoting. If I'm being really OCD about it, there it is. It's a little bit shinier, but hey, rocker box covers installed, and they look absolutely fantastic. These were freshly Cerakoted, and then I meticulously sanded back the little exposed fins on the edge here. Getting these fitted onto the bike, you'd think this would be so straightforward, right? 5-minute job, if that. We've got a nice stainless steel bolt there, and then there's these two little nuts, see it's focused, two little nuts in there that just torque it up, put it nice and tight against the gasket in there, as you can see. Now, when I first offered this up to the bike, there was not enough thread poking through here. There was a tiny little bit of thread exposed, and wasn't happy with that at all. You've got to be really careful if you've got not enough thread to get a nut on, because if you start applying a torque through a nut and it's not properly engaged in the thread, you'll just chew the end of the thread off. It'll just rip it off in no time at all. So I had to kind of fashion up a bit of a jam nut situation to break the stud free from inside here. There's two little threaded studs in here, just backed it out a little bit, put a bit of Loctite in there just to kind of secure it in place because it's not bottoming out anymore. But that gives me enough exposed thread to get the thread all the way through the nut. We don't need it any further than the nut. There's no point having it further than the nut, but it's now properly secure, whereas the way that it came from, I think these, I can't remember where these are from, Seaman Rock or something, I can't remember. But, you know, they are too short, definitely too short. So interesting, but got that sorted out. So finally, let's have a quick chat about luggage on the bike. Now, as you can see up here in the depths of the garage, we've got the Trip Machine Warrior 2 saddlebags that I was thinking about installing on this bike. And then behind them, we've got the old Crouser BMW bags, which I don't trust anymore. They're just too rickety, rusty, don't have the keys for them. Really just not loving the state that they're in. Now, I will, I think at some point, find a way to fit the Trip Machine bags, but it's not immediately obvious how I can get a really good secure fitting on these chrome luggage racks. So what I've actually gone and done is I've purchased a couple of the Hepco and Becker reproduction bags that they sell on Motorworks. They are not cheap. They're not cheap, but they are going to give this bike a proper classic look, you know, in line with the original cases over there. But, you know, we've got keys for them now. They use a new kind of buckle system at the back, so we don't have to worry about them falling off. I had to run a cam strap on these before to stop them potentially coming off. So we've got some real good quality luggage going on the back of the bike, which is going to give us plenty of storage space and look absolutely in line with the original as well. So I can't wait for them to turn up and to get those fitted onto the back of the bike. Another job we've got to do before we get this bike turned over is we've got to get the oil filter installed. There is an oil filter in there at the moment, but I do need to double check that it's the right one. Also had a little bit of fun getting the oil cover off. For some reason, it was quite difficult to get the top bolt out without hitting the frame. So I've actually gone ahead and using a slightly shorter bolt at the top, and then running the standard M20 20mm bolts down at the bottom. So we've got to just get in there, make sure that we are all good with this oil filter, because BMW made it quite easy to destroy your engine by not fitting this filter properly. You've got to measure the depth of it, then you've got to make sure that you've got they call it the $2,000 O-ring. It's probably more like a $4,000 O-ring now, but you've got to make sure that O-ring's installed properly on the filler cover. And then there's some shims that you might have to use if you need to compensate for the depth of the oil filter as well. So you've got to get in there, spend a little bit of time thinking about that and making sure that that is all set up correctly. So elsewhere, we've got the Brembo calipers now fitted on the bike. These are all torqued up. I think there's 24 foot-pounds of torque on these big Allens here, and then these are torqued up as well to make sure both halves of the caliper properly pressed together. We've got new pads in there, new O-rings, new seals, new pistons. Everything's been remachined as well, because we had a bit of corrosion in there too. You might have seen that in previous videos. So the only thing we've got to do now is get them pressurized. We've got these special speed bleeders here, which means we don't have to keep cracking them and shutting them. We can just go ahead, hook them up, and pump fluid through there, which should be nice and easy. So, well, hopefully. I've never actually used them before, so fingers crossed that's all fine. And that's about it for this little update. Next thing to do, we'll get the headlight on and we'll get the electrics in. We'll get the battery tray installed, get a new battery for it as well. And then we are gonna get to the point where we've got to turn this thing over. We've got to see if hopefully it's going to spring into life, or if it's going to require a little bit more attention, but we will find out in due course. So there you go, that's the latest. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, ride safe.